Hey, buddy.
What's up, man? How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm not having as fun today as I was last Friday. I'll tell you that much. Well,
I guess it all depends on the timestamp of last
timestamp.
Friday.
Yeah, timestamp of last Friday.
Timestamps are important. Yeah, we're talking about fun in the Connect, man. So that's the topic for this month. And I think when we created, so we did a ton of research to do the curriculum, and as we dug into these different topics, there were certain ones that we kind of threw out there, and they didn't make the cutting board, and or they got cut, I guess, before finalizing our nine different points that we want to focus on. And fun and friends were two that I was like, I don't know if these will make it. And then we dug into these topics as we explored and did research and fun. I would say fun is probably one of the most powerful. And it's not necessarily because having fun is, more impactful or important than say focusing on intimacy within your family. But I would say it's become more powerful because it's so easy for men to deprioritize. So its impact, I think, is outsized and it's significant, not because necessarily the topic itself. It is a very important topic, which is obviously why it made the nine, but it's because of the extreme other way that a lot of us, particularly men, go when it as it relates to fun, right? Like we're like, that's not something traditionally that I think most men in a conversation, it's not necessarily something that there are hobbies that make our calendar potentially, but I don't think we're intentional with fun. Like, what is the intentionality of the opportunity I could take on this bike ride with my friends or on this golf outing or this fishing, like these hobbies? I don't think we think of fun as intentionally as we do some of these other topics. And so for fun, for us is a very, very impactful month. And it's interesting. So you and I are huge believers in this, and we have, our fun days that we schedule, but sometimes fun can go awry.
Sometimes fun can not be so fun anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And it could change very quickly.
Very, very quickly. It went from really fun to not any fun at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's so
and
it's funny though that we have one of the guys that originally joined our group and the OGs when we came to this topic. He mentioned at the beginning of it, he's like, yeah, I was looking through, your Kinetic Life Circle and all these topics, and I saw fun, and I kind of like questioned it, right? And I kind of just like realized I was just like gonna slough that month off because I don't really have any fun because I'm in, the high earning years of my life, and my life has just kind of been consistent of my priorities being providing for my family, making money, and just being there at home and doing family time. And I don't have time for fun. And at the end of that month of conversation, he then said, "Oh man, this was one of the most impactful months of our time so far."
yeah, dude. I mean, it's interesting because fun is not something. I would argue that fun is not something as men that we typically prioritize. And one of the questions that we asked during Reflect Week last week was, hey, would you consider fun to be critical to your life, right? Like, and I think the nuance and the specifics of that word choice are important. Would you consider fun to be critical to your life, to your family and your professional life, right? And when you ask it that way, a lot of dudes, you see it on the call, right? Like guys are like, huh, I don't know. And one guy raised his hand, he was like, no, I don't. But he caveated it. He said, I don't, but I'm starting to change my tune. And this was like the first week we really talked about this. He's been in the group for a while. This may even be the second time he's going through fun, this specific individual. And it was fascinating because as he talked through it, and this time around, so we've done this what 3, 4 times at this point. This time around is very different for me because there are certain things. Fun definitely makes my calendar now, right? It's something that makes my calendar from a family perspective within our relationship. We challenge the guys to do something to schedule fun, make it on the calendar with your family, with your friends, and individually. That's like the challenge that we issue to the dudes in Fun Month in the first week. And because a lot of us are we're decent at it with friends, I'm sorry, with family. But a lot of times we're not the creator of the fun. We don't intentionally you know, assign ourselves the responsibility of creating the fun. Within our friends group, it just depends. You know, a lot of us are also along for the ride, but we don't necessarily drive the fun and invite people into that within our friends or colleagues, whatever it is, however you see that. And then individually, that's a place where I think men are really bad is we deprioritize ourselves and self-care and really being like, okay, what do I love to do? It's funny, you ask a lot of guys at this stage in their life, hey, what do you love doing? And a lot of them are like, I don't know, man. I love to work. And you're like, that's so lame,
To
dude. You love
work.
to work. It's the
Yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I'm not suggesting you don't like. I love the work we do. I love work. I loved working in the Navy. I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't. I wouldn't characterize that as that is not a good substitute for something that is purely fun that I enjoy that I'm passionate about. You know what I mean? Like I can't fly fish uh at work, but I love fly fishing. And that's an important thing about fun too, even though, you know, I was thinking about this morning, you know, you got hurt and there are sometimes consequences to fun and you're not going to be riding a bike for a while.
Right.
Probably your summer's probably done, mountain biking. And there's also other implications, right? We had a couple of different retreats potentially planned. I think you're out for that. That has some real implications. But and I was thinking, like, is it worth it? That's actually something I was just thinking about it earlier. Is it worth it? And I can't imagine my life without choosing not to do those things, even though they put me in the potential to hurt myself. Like I can't imagine just being like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna sell my bike. Like I'm done biking. You know, I fell in the river the other day. I mean, I've almost hurt myself pretty significantly fishing just because the way I fish sometimes is kind of is stupid. Like I'm on boulders and I'm throwing over boulders and I've fallen off of boulders before. By the pure grace of God, I landed in a pool instead of on a rock, right? Like I landed straight on my back and I had no way to stop it, full weight off of a boulder. My feet weren't in the water, my whole body was out, fell backwards and all just to catch this little brook trout. And and dude, I landed in the water and I remember sitting there completely submerged, which was a blessing. And I got up and I'm like, I looked around and there's boulders all around me. And if I would have landed on my back on a boulder, dude, it would have been a bad day. And I was out in the middle of nowhere. Um, so yeah, I think there's always a chance, but removing all that stuff from my life is I can't imagine that, especially now that we've been so focused on fun, right? And it being big. But this time was very, very different for me. I was preparing for Fun Month and I was doing some reading and I was fascinated. I typed into Google, um, do men do men have fun? I think that's what I put in or something like that. And and it went to a lot of different chats. Like there's some different things, there's some different research. It talked about friendship, like there's a lot on that. But not a lot on fun. And then but it went into I started reading into some like chats, like the what are they like Quora or whatever those different
Oh, Reddit. Was it Reddit?
like yeah, all the like
Yeah.
Reddit, like those there's multiple kinds of those. And I started clicking on those just to see what other people were saying about it because I was fascinated by it. And the number of women contributors to those chats who put themselves out on the web and said, I keep finding, why is it that I keep finding men? I put men in air quotes. They sound like Peter Pans and man boys, right? Um, but their question was, why are so many men interested in just having fun? And then that thread, the point of their question was they're just meeting a bunch of dudes who just want to meet, hook up, have sex, and like not commit and kind of go on to the next one. And I saw that over and over again. And I saw some of the responses to it, and I was just like, I was blown away. And it really gave me a different sense of responsibility for modeling fun for my kids because there's this twist of what fun is and what it means to be a man. And it was very enlightening to me to see that men just want to have fun, quote unquote. And what that really meant is objectify women, be very selfishly oriented on their own hedonistic type pleasures, and that was by and large the perspective, and then the justification below that was fascinating to me. Like other guys jumping in, well, because we're looking at. I mean, I don't want to get it. You can read it yourself. It's fascinating read, but it just was. I left that like really. I left it sad. Is really what I left it. I left it sad because you can also see the consequences of that. They learned that from somewhere, and you can see the consequences from that, and the consequences are in the data, right? And I think fun is as consequential as 25% of children are growing up in fatherless homes because their fathers are out having fun, right? Um, the divorce rate within the church exceeds 50%. Outside the church, it's even more than that. But it's pretty close. It's pretty on par in and outside the church. Over 50%, dude. That tells me something too, right? And I think a lot of these things are directly correlated to this idea of something that we think of as so insignificant, but yet it models for our friends, especially in our families and our homes and professionally, it models what, like, think about in the Navy when you would go on a deployment. Like a lot of things that I did on deployment, not because I was any better than anybody, but when I went to another country, I was like, I want to explore. I want to go check this out. I want to go. How many dudes do you know that just would go and it would just get completely obliterated? And potentially, I saw lots of cases of adultery. I
Yep.
saw lots of dudes doing, their version of fun included paying for certain services that I was just completely turned off by. Right, I didn't hang out with those people, and the opportunities missed to go see amazing sights in incredible countries was gone because dude, like, because they would go out have fun, quote unquote, and it would just be like, how much can I debauch myself? And I find that interesting.
Yeah, man. It is interesting. It's when we were doing research on this topic, um, if you wanted to, and oh, by the way, to go back a little bit to give a little bit of the backstory about what we're alluding to, Dave and I went for a mountain bike ride last Friday. We're recording this on Monday prior to this coming out, and we were going on a mountain bike ride, and we were going fast. We were having fun. I launched on a jump, got some air, and crashed. Flew over the handlebars, landed really, really hard, and broke my clavicle and at least one rib, possibly more. Waiting on more news from doctor today on how that's gonna all play out. I don't know if I'm gonna have to have surgery or not, but yeah, I'm hard down, and it's it's impacted fun, and it's impacted my family life and everything else. But yeah, I think we can probably have another conversation on a real talk about is it worth it? That's an interesting conversation. I know we're going to throw out a question similar to that for a Socratic conversation in our men's group in the mastermind. But back to the research, I watched a TED talk and there was an article on the power of play from Dr. Jack Panskep. He's a neuroscientist, and he discovered that from birth, we have basically seven primal emotions. One of those emotions is play. And so, interchange the word play for fun. We are born to play. You can see it in animals, you can see it in kids, and he described how as kids become adults, that behavior starts to be depressed. Both being in school, sitting in a classroom all day long, to now becoming an adult and having responsibilities and going to work, and that play, primal emotion starts to get depressed, and there's a lot of impact to that. There's a lot of impact to that, to depression, irritability, poor impulse control, lack of empathy, addictive behaviors, and violence, change of mood, like tons of things start to come into play when you don't allow for that one primal emotion to happen. And uh, playing brings joy to people's life. That feeling that activates from playing is joy. And, you know, God calls us to have joy in our life. It's a fruit of the spirit. Play equates to joy. And it's something that we really need to focus on. I don't know about you, man, but like, as we've started this, we challenge ourselves to just like be playful with our kids, be playful with our family, you know, initiate pillow fights or initiate a dance party or just be silly in the car. And man, like just that simple stuff has brought so much more joy to my family's life and to my own life by just initiating that joy. And as we become adults, I think we tend to stop that. We tend to lose focus on that, and it's important, man.
Yeah, man, and one more, because we in the Kinetic Man we love to define things, right? And one of the things that just as we kind of wrap this up, the definition of fun, I find it to be fascinating is the it, you know when I say fascinating, I mean I'm drawn to the definition because it highlights a couple things that I want to read real quick. So specifically, in the definition it says specifically play is playful, often boisterous action or speech, a mood for finding or making amusement. Um, when I read that, I think a lot of the dudes, we read that in the call and just work through the definition, but a lot of us, I think, are very uncomfortable with the boisterous, often boisterous action or speech, right? I think that makes like us seeing ourselves as these guys that go and like, like you said, start an impromptu dance party or singing out loud or doing like just being fun. We are so conditioned that that's childish and whatever, however you want to look at that that it's we're almost like it's also almost repulsive, right? We judge. We're like, oh, that guy is, we just judge if we're honest. But then you look at the people that surround that person, that dad potentially out on the playground that's just acting crazy and doing stuff, and you look at the people around him, you look at the kids around him in particular, look at their faces, look at their reaction. Who's making more of an impact, the cool guy on the sideline with the cell phone, or the dude that's out there being playful, playful and boisterous? But what I love about this is it says boisterous action or speech, right? They're action, excuse me, action verbs. And it says a mood for finding or making amusement, for finding or making amusement. It's not participating in, it's not being someone who, well, if they're going to lead it, then maybe I'll go out or maybe I'll observe. No, like it is you finding or making amusement. And in the identity of a kinetic man, which we've created for each of these topics, we talk about creating opportunities, like the very active, right? Intentionally creating opportunities for fun. And it makes a huge difference, dude. It makes a huge difference if you're the one willing to do that. And here's the kicker. If you're not, who is? In your cool group of dudes who hang out and work real hard and are on your cell phones and you read a lot of news and you sit on the sideline. Like in that cool group of dudes, obviously I'm being facetious. I don't think it's cool at all. And neither do your kids, right? And neither do your friends, quite frankly. And I'll tell you the fun thing. So I've been riding with a neighbor, and I wrote him a message, and I said, "Hey, one thing I'm about to write you a message that's going to make you uncomfortable, which brings me great joy." And then I just wrote, I said, "Hey, I've really enjoyed like our families growing together. I've really enjoyed the bike rides we've been going on, and I value you as a friend. I value our time together." And he responded with a really nice note. Like, I mean, I was actually surprised at his response. But again, without the fun that we're doing together, there is no further depth that opens the doors to those kind of conversations. And I want those conversations with all the dudes I'm surrounded by, right? Like, I don't want surface level, you know, relationships that like, that we're all so cool and we're all kind of, who's we're measuring things like that are inconsequential, like incomes and cars and this and that and positions. No, dude, like who's more fun? Who do our kids want to be around? Who is influence? And it's not just who do our kids want to be around. If they're around you, you're influencing them. That's the point. If they're around you, you're influencing them. Nobody wants to hang out with the grumpy dude and his face in the cell phone and stop bothering me. I'm working. Nobody wants to be with that person, adult or child. And so when you are that guy, it bears remembering that that is your influence, that is your impact. And you have a choice about that because you can also flip the switch and be the dude that puts the phone down and be like, get over here, kids. Let's do this thing. I'm gonna go outside and play with you. I'm gonna take you to the pool. I'm gonna throw you. I'm gonna do whatever. Like, dude, there's always a line at the pool. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I will tell you, I'm just stating fact. There's a line of kids at the pool whenever we go that I'm just throwing them in. And other kids are like looking up like the complete strangers, and they're like, oh, I wonder if, and so I'm like, hey, you want me to throw you? And like, yes, immediately, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
dude.
And
That
and so go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I was actually thinking of you. This exact same scenario happened 4th of July. Our family went to a pool party with a bunch of kids, and I was the only dad in the pool, and there was a line of 8 kids behind, waiting in line to be thrown, and all the
Yeah.
other parents were out, outside just watching, and like the kids were having a blast. And I'll tell you what, afterwards, my 2 kids like had a little bit of like extra stagger to them, right? Like they had a little bit of extra like pride because their dad was the one in the pool being the cool, fun dad, throwing all of their friends. It had an impact.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, and I asked this just completely because we're in this month and there's kids at our house and I asked them and I said, "Hey, I'm not asking you this because I want an answer. This isn't for my whatever." I said, but I asked 2 questions. I said, "Would you say I am like compared to all your buddies' dads, these are other kids, would you say I'm like more strict or less strict?" And dude, my my daughter's friends, my son's friends, they all were the same. They were all like, we'd say you're like probably on the more strict side, right? I said, yeah, okay, cool. Um, would you say I'm more fun and you want to hang out with me or less fun, you don't want to hang out than most of the other dads? And they were like, more fun. And I say that because I was trying like I wasn't trying to build my ego with a bunch of kids. I'm trying to intentionally create an environment and I want to understand my blind spots. And so I want it was very, very interesting to me that those two things, they're not dichotomous. They're not, it's not like if you're strict and hold standards, you can't be fun. Like that's not it at all. And so when you look at your personality, you don't have to change who you are and your standards. Like I'm not a yes dad. Like I don't do yes days. I personally am not like I'm not a like I probably will never do a yes day. I'm not judging yes days. I think it's great. It's just not me. It's not my style. It's like just I would like it would make me ugh. But I do make myself available to say a lot of yeses to a lot of things with my kids. A lot of yeses that are a lot of fun, right? And so like crepes with ice cream for breakfast, like stuff like that. It's no big deal. But my point is, you don't have to become something or somebody you're not to do fun. It is naturally built in us, just like potentially how strict I may or may not be. But it was a really good indicator. You and I talk about all the time. Hey, you want to know what your kids think? Ask them. And so I do. I take that to heart and I ask other people's kids too, because I want to know how to be more intentional in creating a place where they feel safe and want to come. But there's also an element that they all know. They're like, hey, like we say please and thank you here. We say please for the ice cream filled crepe. Like that's a lot of fun. But we say please and we say thank you and we put our dishes in the dishwasher, right? Like they don't have to be out of balance. And so I guess I just highlight that to say 2 things. One, I encourage you ask. If you truly genuinely want to be better, like start asking questions of the people that you care about and that you really want to impact and influence, right? Like that's a big one. And then the second part is listen, take action, and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be an overwhelming thing. but choosing to integrate these things into your life, dude, you can schedule fun. I can schedule crepe days. I can schedule cookie. I can schedule late night movie. I'll tell you, I stayed with my daughter and watched a movie. We talked about, dude, we talked about abortion, homosexuality, God, church, the politics, the different dynamics of of valuable men in office and women in office. Like, dude, that's what a late night movie night with my daughter turned into. It was it
That's awesome.
was awesome.
Yeah, man.
So these are the things, right? These are the opportunities we create. And when we deprioritize fun, we deprioritize influence. Straight up. That's all there is to it. You deprioritize fun, you deprioritize influence. And that's all there is to it.
It's good. Like that. Okay, let's end there. Guys, go be the fun dad. Choose play, choose fun. It's important. Make it a priority. It's influential. It's impactful. Go play. See ya.